I think we're working now. I can get started again. I apologize. Thank you, everybody, for waiting. Hi, this is Chris Whalen, CPA, and this is a very special live YouTube stream that I'm doing tonight. This relates specifically to a New Jersey issue, and it's called the Sweeney Bills. And the Sweeney Bills are S4204 and A5936. And this is the bill title: concerns employment status of individuals with respect to wage and hour and unemployment status. So this has been causing a lot of hysteria and a lot of misinformation for the past several months now. And what's happening is that a lot of the rules for who can be an independent contractor and who's an employee seems to have they're planning to change those rules. So people were rightfully very upset that their livelihood could be taken away and they would lose their independent business owner status. So that's what this video is about tonight. And I'm trying to hopefully give some analysis and give some perspective from my 30-year career as to what this means and what this doesn't mean, at least from what I can glean from the original bill, but also what are in the amendments to the bill. And that's very important. We go over some of the changes they made to allay some of the fears of some of the independent contractors. So here's just some comments about the bill that I want to read ahead of time. If we don't have the amendments to the bill approved, and those I'm going to detail here, then this would convert many independent contractors to employees. But even with the amendments, this is still too vague. We have had this vague wording as long as I have been a CPA. So if we're going to take time to amend this law, we need to do it right, not just turn it into a cash grab and ruin hundreds of thousands of people's lives. This is definitely a money grab. New Jersey is broke. This bill is meant to turn independent contractors and their compensation into employee compensation, subject to unemployment and disability insurance. All right. So it would take away the ability for independent contractors to write their expenses off. This bill does not even define what a business is. Isn't that amazing? We have a bill that's supposed to differentiate between a business and an employee, and it doesn't really give us a clear distinction. If I read this bill, and I have a lot of experience, I really can't give my clients advice as to how to characterize themselves. So we know that's a bad thing. So the first thing we need to do in the bill is that we need to define what a business is, number one. And if you look at the ABC rules, which are going to go over together in a few minutes, it doesn't mention businesses. It only says an individual. Remember, when I'm going into a business to work, I am not an individual, even if I'm a sole proprietor. All right, so these are very important things to remember. So the most important point here is that this bill needs years of analysis before even being considered. I think what New Jersey is doing, some of the liberal elected officials are trying to follow California. They think they're doing good. They're trying to micromanage things. They're trying to create even a bigger nanny state. And of course, they should stay out of it. The business owners should decide what their relationship is. The elected officials should not be involved at all. Especially looking at how this bill was written. The person that wrote this bill has no idea how to run a business or what a business-to-business relationship really is. That's how sad this is. That's why it needs to be scrapped right now. So I urge every elected official listening to this to do all you can to stop any further votes on these bills. Your constituency must be your main priority. And remember, they're all watching you very closely now. So some other important notes before I get started. Where work is performed has nothing to do with characterizing a relationship as business to business or business to employee. This is a ridiculous idea, but it's still part of these bills. It doesn't matter where you do the work. That has nothing to do with it. But yet it's still a big part of the bills, the amendments here. And the other notes are that forming an LLC or a corporation has nothing to do with determining if you are running a business. So having a business presence and doing everything that you need to be a business has nothing to do with you forming a company. You could be a simple sole proprietor without forming anything. Pardon me 1 second. Okay, so I'm back, and what we're going to do is I want to talk about the distinctions between, well, what is a business and what is an employee? What are the differences? Now, I made this list. It's in one of my other podcasts and presentations, but I want to read these to you and compare and contrast the distinct characteristics. So let's talk about a business. A business actively looks for new clients openly, and this does not cause a problem with the businesses that engage them as an independent contractor, right? As I always say, if I have a tax return, that client knows I'm going to be getting more tax returns. But think about an employee. They never openly look for new work, as this will cause a problem with the business that hired them as an employee. That main line right there, you should be able to decide what kind of relationship do you have. Are you on a day-to-day, month-to-month, or a contract basis, or are you there indefinitely? So that alone should be one of the main determining factors if you're a business or an employee. Number two, a business often has contracts, engagement letters each time they're hired. I strongly suggest this practice, by the way. Now, an employee, most of them do not have contracts or engagement letters. Sometimes they have employment contracts, but these are not the same thing. For a business, work is not open-ended, but usually based on a specific project or job that has a definitive endpoint. No assumption that the independent contractors will work after each engagement is over. Now, with an employee, the work is always open-ended. The employees are hired for an indefinite period until the employee is fired or quit. It is 100% assumed employees are working indefinitely. Businesses, on the other side, they send invoices for services rendered. Employees never invoice their employers. And businesses, they have a business presence, websites, business cards, marketing plans, business insurance. They maintain accounting records, whereas employees do not have a business presence. So I have this chart that's available to give you. Just email me. If you look in the description, you'll see my main website and my email address if you want to contact me for any reason. But this chart is really good. It really differentiates. Something like this should be in the bill very, very clearly. So they tell us, well, what is a business in your eyes? This bill does not tell us that at all. It leaves it vague, and it leaves it vague in their favor. And I'll go over that in a few minutes. We're going to do that right now. So within these laws, there are the ABC rules, okay? And the ABC rules are very interesting, but they've been in place for a long time. People don't realize that New Jersey has had this vague structure of who's an employer, independent contractor for many decades now. So this is nothing new at all. So what I want to do is I want to hold up these the ABC rules in a minute. I'm going to start with letter A, of course, and it's going to go over what you need to have in order to not be considered an employee. Okay, this is very important. I'm going to hold this up right now, and if you see, this is letter A, and I want you to notice that there are items that are struck out. You'll see the in the first sentence and the in the second sentence, because those were included in the original bill and they were struck out. And if you look at everything in the brackets, those were added. So I'm going to read this, then we're going to talk about it. So now it reads, such individual has been and will continue to be free from control or direction over the performance of such service, both under his contract of service and in fact. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So what does that mean? So the individual will continue to be free from control or direction over the performance of what you're doing. So it's a very interesting thing. Even if I'm a CPA and I'm coming into one of my clients, it's not doing the same work. They're not an accounting firm, but in some way, I might be considered under their control or direction, even though I'm fully independent. So this is vague, and this is purposely vague, because what this allows them to do is to say that you failed this because you're under the control and direction. I like to give a very specific, clear definition here. So when someone, if I'm working for someone, if I am under their direct, if I'm free from, if I'm in their control and they have control, direction over my performance, that's when I'm doing assembly line work. If I'm coming in and I'm building a window, exactly the same structure per a plan, and it's being reviewed by somebody, that is direct control and direction over my performance. That is an employee's work. There's no doubt about it. But if I'm creative, let's say I'm a writer and I'm coming in and I'm hired to write an article for CNN on a sports topic. Well, any author they always are free from control and direction, right? So just because I tell an author or writer to give me an article on the LA Lakers, all right, so they're going off on their own. They're going in their own direction. They're using their own self-control and control. So especially if you're an independent writer, for example, or an accountant, that if you're doing something creative that is not just put into a compartment or an assembly line idea like a window or something else, well, then I think you're free from the control or direction of your performance, even if you do the same thing. So let's say in my window company example, if I come in, but I make custom windows, so they need someone to do custom windows, but they don't have anyone really doing that. Well, it's technically a window, but I'm not under their control or direction or of my performance. So see the difference? It's very important that many people, even if they work on the premises somewhere, can be considered that they pass letter A, that they're out of the control and they don't have direction over their performance. So very important that we look at that and really see, well, what's happening and what do these words mean? Because they will not purposely detail, like I'm trying to do here, I'm just giving you my experience as to what have I seen in the past, how have they tried to apply these rules. All right, now we're going to go to letter B in the ABC rules. And again, I want you to see that we have some strikeouts here. And then we have some strikeouts here. And then we also have some things in brackets. So what was the things in brackets were not in there in the initial bill, and the things that were struck out were in the bill. So now this reads exactly: such service is either outside the usual course of the business for which such service is performed, or that such service is performed outside of all the places of business of the enterprise for which such service is performed. Okay? So let's think about that for a second. Now, what's important about this is let's look at that again. Look at the whole second part of that. Look at the whole second part of that, or that such service. So now this is what caused the problem with the initial bill, a big part of it. They took out this provision that the work could be, if the work is performed outside the normal place of business of the enterprise, your client, well, then you could be a subcontractor. So that the hysteria was real and it was valid. So now I want everyone to see, well, they included that here, that they put this back. So this basically brings us back very similarly to where we were for 30 years. So it's important everyone sees this. If you're not working on the premises, right, and even if you're doing the same kind of work, that you still could be considered an independent contractor. So very important to see what this says. Again, this is only my CPA interpretation, not a legal interpretation, but we do a lot of this work. So very important to take a look at what this says and see, do you fit into it? Should you be upset? Should you be worried? Okay. Now I'm going to get to letter C. I'm going to take the same thing here. Take a look at letter C. Look at what was struck out and what was now included. So this now says such individual is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, profession, or business. Okay, so great. So have a business presence, as we talked about before. That's what this is. So again, if you have this, that's important to go for you to prove that you're an independent contractor. Are you a business? Are you engaging other clients besides one? Are you working for just one purpose? Are you working on a contract basis? Right? So that's very important that you take a look at these and see if there's any. I don't have any questions in the chat, but I just wanted to say it's very, very important that we get this bill stalled, because even with these minor changes, even if they give the amendments back to us, that they need a year of time to establish what is the true impact on the taxpayers of New Jersey. This can affect hundreds of thousands of people and their livelihood and their families. And for them to put this forward and that also provide us with a detailed analysis and a tax consequence analysis, that really is disrespectful. So I'm going to leave it here. Please, if you need to contact me, please see my description below. You'll see my website and my email address. I'm sorry about the earlier problems. Again, I appreciate you being here. And again, I'm sure we'll be talking again really soon. And I'm signing off from the live stream. Thank you.